Hi, it's DM Bill, and as you can tell, I am not impressed. Why, you may ask? Because it's what us old folks do. You want to know what does impress me, besides a full night's sleep without a trip to the bathroom every 2 hours? Online shopping. That's right, online shopping impresses me. There's nothing I like more than clicking on the doodads on my jitterbug phone and buying the latest D&D books and gaming accessories from Amazon and having it delivered right to my door. That's darn convenient. Next time your kids are on your Twitcher book or Facey time, impress DM Bill and head on over to our website, thedungeonmastersdojo.com, and do some online shopping at our Amazon affiliate store. It doesn't cost you anything extra, and it's a great way to support a podcast. See you next time in the dojo.
Support the Dungeon Masters Dojo by heading over to Apple Podcasts and Podchaser and leave a review. Take the time to leave a comment as well. This helps make us more searchable to those listeners interested in content such as ours. But more importantly, we want to know how we are doing and what topics you would like to hear about.
Another way you can support the DMD is by buying the DMD a beer, so we can continue to deliver quality content to you, our listeners. This also helps us upgrade and replace equipment. Head over to buymeacoffee.com/thedmd and buy us a beer, or 3, or 5. Don't forget to say something nice or mean. We don't care. You're buying us a beer. Now on to this week's episode. You've finally come to the shrine of the old god.
Can I have a medium cheese?
Before you stands a massive creature, proportions all out of sorts.
Does that cost extra?
One horn atop its ape-like head. It is Kasug the Vile, your quarry. What do you do?
Some cheesy bread.
Scott?
Yeah, I gotta go. Bye. Yeah.
Are you on the phone?
No. Were we supposed to kill him, or just not?
We're talking 5 D&D player pitfalls to avoid this week on the Dungeon Masters Dojo.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Dungeon Masters Dojo podcast. This is a show for game masters and players alike. We hope to bring you tips and tricks to elevate your game and develop the art of dungeon mastery. I'm your host, Louis Aponte, and these are your Dungeon Masters, Scott Labby and Bill Robotile. Let's enter the dojo and see what they have in store for us today. Hey, Bill. Hey, Scott.
You damn well better have ordered enough for everybody.
I'll call him back.
Pitfalls to avoid.
Player pitfalls to avoid. What you don't want to do
Is what you just did.
it's one of them. Yes. There's we talk a lot about how to be a better dungeon master. You know, how to up your game. But we haven't talked a lot about upping your game from the player's point of view. So let's do that.
I think we need to.
Yeah, a lot of these are, well, actually not a lot. All of these are pet peeves that we have as DMs, and I'm sure, you know, to any of the DMs that are listening to us, it's probably some of yours too.
Yeah, these are kind of the most prevalent. It's definitely not a complete list.
No, there's a lot of others.
Oh, yeah. But these are the ones that we find most often have slowed play, derailed play, and it's not only disrespectful to the game master, but also to the other players. So, first off, you don't work with the party, or the party doesn't work together.
Boy, that old chestnut, huh? We haven't encountered that ever before.
Yeah.
We're not.
More often, I just look at these players and I go, "Why?"
And it's not to say that, I mean, you get these brand new players to the game, and they're not going to know their way around the game, and so we're not talking about that,
No,
right?
no.
Because there's no expectations of a brand new player.
Not many.
Show up on time, and we'll help you navigate through the rest of it. But for players that aren't new, and they're people that have been around the gaming table for a little bit. And they just you don't work at all with the party. It's a social cooperative game, so it's
If you're showing up just to get away from the wife and kids, and you spend the whole night on the phone with the wife about the kids,
yeah,
okay, go to a bar, go somewhere else, go bowling, get the hell off my table, or straighten up. Plain and simple. You're taking the enjoyment away from the other players at the table.
Yeah, make an effort to work with the party.
Yes.
This is what I bring to the table. This is the talent that I have. If you're a wizard, you shouldn't be up there
wielding a sword on the front line.
Yeah, it's or off doing your own thing. Or maybe it's more than just one person. You just have a party that does not work together, and we've seen that with our own party.
Yes, we have
at our own table, where you're scratching your head. It's almost like they're running the game, and you're sitting there being entertained by the bedlam and chaos that is ensuing. Things are being burnt to the ground. Someone's having a drink in the tavern. There's a brawl happening in the tavern. Now it's out in the street.
Meanwhile, someone else is in the brothel. Someone else decide, I'm going to go shopping. It's 11 o'clock at night. Everything's closed. I know I'm a rogue. I'm going to go shopping.
Yeah. I'm breaking in.
Yeah.
Work together. It increases your life expectancy quite a bit, and it makes the game more fun to play when you're working together, because you have a better chance of success, a better opportunity to have your epic moments.
There is the supposition that the game master has written a story for you with certain expectations and goals to meet. And if you're just out willy-nilly, whether it's 1, 2, or the entire party, just out there doing your own thing, those expectations are not going to be met, and those goals are not going to be realized.
Yeah, it sucks putting 6 months into a campaign and being second level.
Yeah. So you get experience for what you do, not for just showing up. And Bill, surprise, is not a proponent of participation ribbons for everybody. If you come in third place, you get a third place ribbon. If you came in fourth place, you don't get anything. So if you don't show up to the game and participate, you're not getting experience points.
Right, and nor should you. Sometimes all it takes is a strong personality at the table to kind of cause like a party cohesion to happen, or a strong player character's personality at the table. Like we had when Jared moved onto my table and he brought his character over, Ulred was a natural leader. He was just one of those characters that people, followed. He was sensible. He was reasonable, all those things. So we started to see a lot of party cohesion. It was less of Callan Higgardine raging into battle and hacking and slashing everything that moved, while Graven blew things up and shot things and caused chaos and bedlam to unfold. And while Iskander's doing her thing, but sighing in exasperation because she's the only one there that
seems to have a brain.
Yeah. So once Ulred came in, it kind of bridged the gap between he was the happy medium between the meatheads and the bookworm. And that's when, weird things like tactics started to happen, or he would flat out say, no, that's a bad idea. And he would begin to plan. And because in the past it was just like, okay, well, we'll kill it.
Because that solves everything.
Yeah, we will go to where it is, and we will kill it. And if anything's in between us and the it, we will kill that too. And that was the plan. It was simple. It was to the point, and that's the sort of thing that that happened for a long time before a party leader kind of emerged. And I don't think Ulred was there during the infamous orc camp.
No, he was not.
No, he was not. So if he was, that debacle probably wouldn't have happened.
No, it would have.
It would.
And we'll move on.
There are some things that just are manifest destiny, baby.
Yep. It's going to happen no matter what. The universe has it planned out.
Yes.
And that's the way it's gonna go.
It wasn't meant to happen, but it happened.
It certainly was not meant to happen. That's not the direction I thought it was going to go in.
So as a player, don't be that guy. Don't fall into the trap of someone else being that guy and you going, that's cool, I want to do it too. Because that's going to unravel the table.
Yeah. Other players are going to get irritated. Your GM's going to get frustrated. And if you're the only one having fun, there's a problem.
Exactly. So let's move on to our next point.
And what is that?
I have no idea. I didn't plan for it.
You don't plan at all. And or your plans are so rudimentary and basic, we're going to go and kill it. Problem solved. If anything's in between us and the it, we're going to kill it too. And that's the extent. No planning.
Yeah, well,
no tactics.
Well, that curtails player and character development.
Yes.
What do? I pick things up, I break them, and I put them down. And that's all you do. That doesn't lead to a lot of development for the player or the character. They said meat bag. That's it. Meat bag with pointy ends.
Yep. And that's great in the beginning.
In the beginning, for some plays, dungeon crawls, things like that, if you're just doing beer and pretzels, okay, fine. But long-term scenarios, if you want to stretch this out from 1st to 7th to 8th, 12th, you want a milestone, you want to cap this character, that is not going to happen.
It is not.
It is not. Not going to happen on my table. It's probably not going to happen on anybody else's. So, as a player, look at the progression of your character. Yeah, I'm going to take everything that makes everything hurt. My feats, my skills, my weapon style. I want everything to bleed. Okay. You can do that. Why? What's the story behind it? What is the impetus for this apparent rage? Now, if you can put that across, then you have an acceptable plan. But it's just, we can take, I'm going to take that. Why? Because it kind of looks cool. But your character's never done that before. Yeah, but now I'm going to start doing it. Are you? Or are you just going to continue to do what you've been doing, and that's just something else that's going to waste?
Yeah, so planning doesn't necessarily have to be like at the gaming table while you're in the campaign or in the adventure or in the session. And what are we going to do about this, that, or the other thing? It could be, and oftentimes is, are you planning out your character? Did you have a plan? Are you following a plan? Yeah, sure, you can adjust your plan, but you got to ask those whys. Why is that? Why would I be interested in this? I mean, yeah, it's good stats wise. I get a bump to my strength or constitution or intelligence or whatever, and then I get this other thing. But why?
I've said forever, justify it. Justify it with a story. Justify it with the gameplay. Justify it by your play style. Justify it. Don't just take it just because it fits well. Like you said, statistically, I look at all this stuff, extra stuff I get. If your sole drive is to have the highest AC on the table, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
You're doing well, because I'll start throwing stuff that isn't combat real quick.
Again, this goes back to the video game mentality, and people need to understand you really can't bring that to this type of game.
Yes,
because in the video games, you're always striving to improve yourself only first and foremost. Everything else, even sometimes your parties, even in a lot of these MMOs, unless you're in a big raid group, you're just out for yourself really, and that's what when you're doing that this way, you're doing this. That's what the same thing is.
Yeah, there's no dimensionality to your MMO character, your computer character. You are just numbers on a paper doll.
Yep.
That's all your armor is. That's all your stats are, and you're really no different than any other toon that's out there running around in the virtual playground you're playing in. But when you come into a game like Dungeons and Dragons or some other tabletop role playing game, it's very different. There's multiple dimensions to your character, or at least there should be. If you're going to get the really big enjoyment out of the game that I've gotten for the past 41 years, then you have to look at every aspect of your character and plan. So you can't be bumping up your character to the next level while the DM is opening up the gaming session, right? That's something you got to do before you get there.
Yep.
And if you don't have the time at home to do it because of family responsibilities or whatever, you try to show up early and get it done before the game starts, because that lack of planning will hold everything up, not just you, but everybody else at the gaming table. And planning can also be a big part of your background story. Every character should have a background story, because when you write a background story and you give it to your DM now has the ability to integrate that background story and expound upon it during the gaming session. And that's where you get a lot of that spotlighting.
And to your points as well, and I know Lou does this too, I love to give my character a flaw. Sometimes, a glaring flaw. And other people are like, well, okay. And we've used random charts that have assigned disadvantages during character creation and stuff like that. And then you get those players that the only thing they do plan for is getting rid of that flaw. That's their focus. Nothing else gets developed. Nothing else gets done. They're looking for a magical item. They're looking for a spell. They're looking for a stat bump. They're looking for a skill.
Stat bump is the big one.
You're looking for something that's going to get rid of that disadvantage, because it's a disadvantage. Where I plan to maintain that disadvantage for as long as possible, because that gives your character.
Yeah.
It gives it depth. It makes it more, I don't want to say believable, but it helps me endear myself to the character, and hopefully helps everyone endear them to other players as well.
I love playing a flawed character, and I love playing a flawed character at a table full of flawed characters.
Yeah.
I think the biggest enjoyment I ever had was playing at the table when we first started our week-long getaway with a bunch of characters that were flawed.
They were flawed.
They were very, very imperfect. Rumblebelly was a criminal who broke out of prison, and Len was very selfish and self-centered, and Mullif was a zealot, and Carolou was hopelessly bright and optimistic and gullible about everything. And
squirrel.
Yeah, and Viviana was a career criminal, and it was just and that's what made them even more heroic, was their levels of imperfection and doing those epic things that they did.
Well, the beauty too is those imperfections weren't, they didn't do everything they could to get rid of them. Those imperfections actually became larger and became the whole.
They embraced them.
it became the character. Like I said, Len was very selfish, and he always was very selfish, except to the people that he held close.
Right, which wasn't the case in the beginning.
Right. No, he was just out selfish. But he grew, he developed. Rumblebelly started off as a criminal and ended up the acting head of a massive organization to do good and a great with the White Drakes across the world. He was their grand master to go to a holy order coming from a criminal beginning. Viviana started off as a career criminal and ended up an entrepreneur with chains of establishments that she owned and ran. Maul started off with a practically xenophobic zealot and grew to the level where he was known worldwide as a diplomat and a confidant to kings and lords, and so he would step in. So they all used. They didn't get rid of their flaws.
They didn't try to hide them either.
They didn't try to hide them. That flaw became their paramount feature, and that's what made them them and what endeared them to everybody else.
Gave them humanity.
Yes. Yeah, and that all comes from planning, but it's planning the direction that you want your character to go in,
and then taking it step by step.
Yeah,
I think that's more, at least in my mind's eye, thematic planning.
Yes,
because there's planning where you can, when you're starting to build your character, and you're putting all your scores into place. We're not talking about that kind of planning, because I think a lot of people abuse that because they'll give themselves one or two dumb stats. And that's something I don't think I've only did once.
Min-max.
Yeah, min-max. And that's not really planning. That's, I don't want to say, just being out for yourself, your min-max, or, you want to be the best of what you can be. And while I get that, that's not what really everybody is.
You're more than just numbers.
Yes.
Right. And like you said, that's not necessarily what the planning we're talking about. That's just the establishment of the character. That's your starting point. You're in the blocks and you haven't gone anywhere. It's after the gun goes off and you're halfway across the track. That's where the planning comes in. All right, now where am I going to go? And in almost all these characters, third, fourth level, is where a lot of them in third level, when you're taking your oaths and your pathways and you're deciding what specialties that your character is going to take. Don't just come to the table and go, how many are there? 3? All right, someone give me a D6. Now, granted, I do stuff like that a lot, but usually during character creation. But once I get that character made, I usually have a pretty good idea where I want to go with it.
It's called a roadmap.
Yep. It's never a straight line.
Nope.
But you got to get from point A to point B.
You got to have it planned out.
Yep.
It's important. How about not paying attention during the game?
What was that?
Who?
Yep.
What?
Huh?
Yeah.
I think the pizza's here.
Oh, okay.
The one you ordered 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, you just stay off the damn phone. I don't think, in our group, phones isn't really an issue.
No.
It's the sidebars.
Yeah.
The side conversations in a group like ours. We're older group. Hey, what happened at work today? You're in a pretty pissy mood while you play. Well, this happened to me. Oh, really? Yeah, that kind of happened to me too. Blah, 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 blah. Hey, Marcus, what are you gonna do next? What? Oh, it's my turn. Yeah, it's your turn. What happened? Son of a bitch. Slowing gameplay. Got to go over it again. You're going to aggravate your game master. You're going to aggravate your other players. Pay attention, please.
Yeah, and every GM out there knows, right, that there's just some days you're on your A game and other days you are not. And that's okay. But it's when it's kind of like a constant thing. Like you're balancing your checkbook. I don't know if people still do that now. Or you're texting, or you're going through a book totally unrelated to D&D or something, but just not with your focus on the game.
Right.
Habitually, of course, because we all have those days where we're off. It's just going to happen. It was a long day at work. You didn't sleep well at night. you're dead tired, your focus is off. But when it's a habitual thing, it's a problem because it'll slow everything down so much, and it robs the enjoyment of everybody else at the table. And I think that's the theme of all these player pitfalls is you're kind of taking the enjoyment out of the game for everybody, and that's unfair.
Very much, because we've said this 100 and something times by now. Cooperative gaming, and if you're not part of that co-op, then you're a liability.
Yeah,
and if it becomes habitual, I've seen it happen where the table goes, "Does he really have to be here?"
Yeah, and that's a lot of pressure on a DM.
Yeah, because they're the one that's going to have to pull them aside, going, you need to either focus and pay attention, or maybe you just go find another table. Because, if you're trying to, just get away and be somewhere else, then just be somewhere else. We're here for a reason, and you don't seem to be interested in that particular reason.
Yeah, it's a hard conversation to have, but it's something that
sometimes it's going to be necessary. And as the game master, you better be ready for it. Because if you're lucky, very lucky, and you've never had to have that conversation, more power to you. Go buy a lottery ticket. But if you've been doing this long enough, you've done this a few times. Now, if you don't have a heart like me, it's relatively easy. But for most of you, you're going to find this a bit trying. Because you don't want to be that game master. You don't want to be that guy who says, go away.
Yeah, you're not welcome really anymore. It's a hard conversation.
It's not a good fit. It's not us, it's you. So pay attention, to what's going on. It doesn't mean you have to write down every detail that's going on. You don't have to question everything that's going on, but at least pay attention to the gist of what's going on. Now, if you're going over your character sheet or writing notes down for your character, that's fine. It's game related. We get that. If you're not part of the conversation and your character's not there to hear it, then, okay, you didn't listen to it. You didn't catch the whole thing. That's fine. But when they turn around and come to you going, okay, it's your turn, no problem, I'm ready. Be ready. Because it's still paying attention to the game.
Yep, absolutely.
So, sharing the spotlight.
Yes, this is one of my pet peeves. It's everybody deserves their moment at the table.
Yep.
Right? Everybody's going to have their moment at the table. Or everybody should. If you're a DM and you're running a table, you want to make sure that spotlight gets put on everybody. It may not happen at every single session, but someone should have the spotlight on them at least once and rotate through from session to session so people have their moment. That's just good practice as a GM. But when you have that spotlight on a character and another person kind of comes in and like steps in front of them, stealing the spotlight, that's uncool. Sometimes people don't realize they're doing it. Other people, they do it and don't realize that, it was kind of a dick move. I was just having fun too.
Yeah. Oh, it reminded me of, and
yeah.
All right, well, if he's doing that, I'm going to do this. And it's like, well, but he's not done doing that.
Yes. Let the other people, and when the spotlight happens, right? So let the other player have their moment, because your moment's going to come too. And you don't want anybody to rob you of that moment when it's on you. But that's your opportunity to be cool, do your thing.
Yep. Here's my stuff, and this is me, and everyone watch, because it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, so sit back and watch.
Yep.
And let that player have that moment.
And on the other side of the coin, if you have the spotlight, it's your turn, and then it moves on. Don't follow the spotlight to the other guy.
Right. Yeah. Especially
your time is up. You've had your moment. Don't try to. You won't share it. It's like, no. I have more. We understand that. We know you have more. but your turn's done, and it will come back around. But don't, you need to share the spotlight. You can't hog it. You can't just, all right, well, we're going to move from you to over there. Well, I'm going to help him. He doesn't need help. All right, well, I'm going to do this while he's doing that. Okay, fine, but he's supposed to do that. No, I can do it better. Or I want to give it a try because I want to learn. You're hogging the spotlight. Knock it off.
Yeah. Wait for your moment.
Yes.
Because now it is not your moment.
Yeah. And just like you said, you'll know when your moment's there, but you'll know when your moment's over.
Yes.
And that desperate clawing at it is just going to make you look pathetic.
Yeah. And it's uncool. You don't want to be that guy.
No, you do not. So this is one of my absolute hugest pet peeves.
Oh my God, this drives me nuts. And I want to strangle someone every time I hear it.
It's what my character would do.
As an excuse to be an absolute jerk to someone else at the table.
Or just to the game master. Just to screw with the game master. Well, that's what my character would do. I'm now an ass.
Yeah.
It's just... this one sets me off. If you want to see just how bad GM Bill can F up your character, pull this line.
I have heard that so many times. Not the you want to see how much of a jerk I can be. I've heard that a fair number of times too. But you know what? That's what my character would do.
Yeah.
And in those circumstances, I've heard it phrased a different way. I think that's what my character would do. In relation to something, non-jerk behavior related. And it's like, yeah, okay, I get that. But when someone's just a jerk, it's like, oh, here's this weapon that I just cannot use that is magical, that someone else can use, or this item that someone else in the party get, but I'm going to pocket it because that's what my character would do.
Yeah, yeah.
It drives me up the wall. And
this one is oftenly linked to alignment.
Yes.
Well, another way of saying it, well, that's what my alignment is. I'm chaotic.
Asshole. I'm chaotic asshole. That's what my alignment is, yeah.
I'm neutral moron.
Yep.
So this is what I'm going to do. Yeah, this one's very, very oftenly is a justification linked to their alignment.
And a very oversimplification for the behavior, where it's like, okay, no, not necessarily what your alignment would do, nor is it not necessarily what your character would do. It's you, the player, kind of being a jerk.
Yeah, using this as an excuse to
be a jerk.
Yeah, just I'm going to pull a dick move because I'm in a dick mood.
And it's uncool.
Yep.
So don't do it.
Ever.
Yeah. It's just, it's not okay.
And if you find yourself doing it and the game master points it out, don't do it again just to piss off the game master because it didn't work when you tried to piss off the player.
Yeah.
Because once again, this is a really fast way to find your character dead.
Yeah. Offer an apology.
Yes. If
you
get called out on it, yeah.
Yeah. I think that's reasonable and move on. Again, it goes back to, a social game where people are in the same room together at the same table playing a cooperative game. And there's really no place for that sort of thing.
And it just occurred to me that you could get caught in this is what my character would do thing and not necessarily be the jerk. It could be that this is a play style that was adopted on another table.
Yeah.
We had a gentleman that joined us. We thought he was going to be a really good fit, but it's like he wanted to play house all the time. Let's set up a keep, and I want to hire servants, and meanwhile the rest of the group wants to adventure. But that's what my character would do because he was nobility and lost, and he wants it back. Okay, then let's go off and find your nobility and people that will rouse behind you. No, I want to pick furniture for the great room. because that's what my character would do. Now, he's not necessarily being an ass.
Right, which he wasn't.
He wasn't. He's a great player too. But it just wasn't a good fit for us. But that's what his character would do. And I think at one point he didn't come out and say exactly that, but he might just as well have. It doesn't mean he did anything wrong, and he wasn't being a dick to anybody, and he wasn't, but it was still disruptive to the gameplay, to the story, that the game master was trying to present to the other players, because it was a gaming style that did not fit with our group. And with blessings, he moved on, and we've still conversed a couple of times after the fact. Hey, hope things are going good for you. And I do miss him. I did like him very much. Yeah. But they said it's what my character would do. And that's all well and fine, but it's not what everyone else wanted to do.
Yeah, and it's hard when there's that conflicting play style. And in this case, it wasn't a huge conflict. It wasn't like you said, there wasn't any animosity. It's just the play style didn't fit with the group. It happens. But
it did fall into the category of that's what my character would do.
And he wasn't using it as an excuse to be a jerk. He was, this is really what my character would do. This is how I have it set up.
Yep.
But it still kind of slowed things down.
And quite a few of the other people like, is this all we're going to do?
Yeah.
And it kind of resolved itself. He realized that it wasn't a good fit. We realized it wasn't going to fit, and it's like, I think you're right. Hey, sorry. Great time while you were here, but okay, if you found another group, hey, blessings, off you go.
Yeah. In all sincerity, have a good time. You're always welcome.
But it was still a pitfall because he was either unable or unwilling to change his play style to match the group, and he expected the group to match to him. And that's not going to happen.
No, and you should make efforts as a GM to give every particular player a little bit of what they're looking for. But giving, totally modifying the play style of a group for one person is really unreasonable, and it's not something that is going to pay back any dividends. You may find yourself running a table with one person.
Yeah, I don't suggest or condone that at all.
Yeah.
I know I wouldn't do it.
And you shouldn't either.
There you go. So there are always going to be pitfalls. There are going to be things you should and should not do. But keep your game master and, more importantly, your other players in mind as you build your character, as you develop your character. Pay attention to the gameplay, pay attention to the story, pay attention to the game master, and everyone will get along just great.
And those are 5 D&D player pitfalls to avoid. Don't be that jerk. That's going to conclude this episode. Thanks for tuning in and listening. Please subscribe to the podcast for more great content. If you'd like to hear a particular topic, you can reach us on Facebook at the Dungeon Masters Dojo, or you can drop us an email at thedungeonmastersdojo@gmail.com. Thank you, and have a good day.